Imagine you are in pain. A doctor hands you a pill. You take it. Within an hour, the pain begins to ease. You feel better, genuinely better, not just calmer or more distracted, but measurably, physiologically better. Then you find out the pill contained no medicine at all. It was made of sugar. Your first instinct is probably to feel tricked, to assume your relief was imaginary, a product of wishful thinking or simple distraction or the comfort of being cared for. But here's the part that changes everything. Your brain, believing it had received treatment, triggered a cascade of real, measurable biological responses. Your body released its own natural painkillers. Your heart rate changed. Your dopamine levels shifted. Blood pressure responded. In some cases, even the immune system reacted. The pill was fake. The healing was real. This is the placebo effect, and it is one of the most unsettling, most studied, and least understood phenomena in the whole of medicine. The word placebo comes from Latin. It means I shall please. It entered medical vocabulary in the 18th century, initially as a slightly dismissive term. A treatment given not because it would help, but because it would make the patient feel attended to. A harmless nothing administered to comfort the anxious or the incurable. For most of medical history, placebos were considered proof of gullibility, evidence that patients could be fooled into feeling better simply by being given attention and a pill-shaped object. Then researchers started measuring what was actually happening inside the body, and the dismissiveness stopped. In the 1970s, a series of experiments changed how scientists understood pain. Researchers at the University of California gave patients a placebo painkiller, a pill they were told was a powerful analgesic, but which contained no active ingredient. The patients reported significant pain relief. That alone was not surprising, but then the researchers added a second step. They gave the patients naloxone, a drug that blocks the brain's opioid receptors. Naloxone is used in emergency medicine to reverse opioid overdoses. When it was administered, the placebo's pain-killing effect disappeared. This was remarkable. It meant the placebo had been working by stimulating the brain to produce its own opioids. Endorphins, the body's natural painkillers. The fake pill had triggered a real biological response. And when that biological response was chemically blocked, the relief vanished. The placebo was not fooling the patient's perception. It was changing the patient's chemistry. The implications of this were profound, and they kept getting stranger. Researchers discovered that the placebo effect has a dose. Larger pills work better than smaller ones. 2 pills work better than 1. Injections work better than pills. Branded pills work better than generic ones, even when the contents are identical. The color of the pill matters. Blue pills work better as sedatives. Red and orange pills work better as stimulants. This holds true even when the pills contain nothing at all. The cost matters. In one study, participants were given 2 versions of the same placebo painkiller. One described as costing a few cents, one described as costing several dollars per pill. The expensive placebo worked significantly better. The relationship with the doctor matters. Patients who received their placebo from a warm, attentive, optimistic doctor reported greater improvement than those who received it from a cold or indifferent one. None of this should be possible if placebos were simply tricking the mind into ignoring real symptoms. Something more fundamental is happening. The brain, given sufficient reason to expect healing, begins to produce it. Perhaps the strangest discovery of all came from a series of studies on open-label placebos. For decades, the assumption had been that placebos only worked if the patient didn't know they were taking one. The deception was considered essential. You couldn't consciously choose to trigger a placebo response. That would defeat the whole point. Researchers at Harvard decided to test this assumption directly. They gave patients with irritable bowel syndrome two options. One group received no treatment. Another group was given placebos, but they were told explicitly that the pills were placebos made of sugar with no active ingredient whatsoever. The bottle was even labeled placebo pills. The patients who knowingly took the placebos reported significantly better outcomes than the control group. They knew the pills contained nothing, and the pills still worked. This finding, replicated in multiple conditions since, suggests the placebo effect is not simply about belief or deception. It appears to be, at least in part, a conditioned response, a learned biological reaction that the body can produce even when the mind knows the trigger is artificial. The placebo effect also has a dark mirror. It's called the nocebo effect, from the Latin for I shall harm. If the placebo effect is the body healing itself in response to the expectation of healing, the nocebo effect is the body harming itself in response to the expectation of harm. Patients who are told that a treatment may cause headaches are significantly more likely to develop headaches, even if the treatment is a placebo. Patients who strongly believe they are seriously ill often experience worsening symptoms, even without physical cause. In extreme documented cases, people have died from conditions they were mistakenly told were terminal. The mind's expectation of harm is as physiologically real as its expectation of healing. The brain does not sharply distinguish between what is happening and what it believes is happening. It responds to both. What the placebo effect reveals, ultimately, is something about the nature of medicine itself. For most of human history, the treatments doctors offered were largely placebos. The herbs, the bloodlettings, the tinctures, most had no pharmacological effect. And yet patients recovered, partly because many illnesses resolve on their own, but partly, researchers now believe, because the ritual of medicine, the consultation, the diagnosis, the prescription, the pill, triggered genuine biological healing responses. Modern medicine is genuinely effective in ways historical medicine was not. But the placebo effect has not gone away. It runs alongside every real treatment, amplifying or reducing its effects depending on context, expectation, and relationship. This is why bedside manner matters medically, not just emotionally. Why the same drug can work better when administered with optimism. Why the ritual of care is not separate from the cure, but part of it. So the next time a doctor hands you something, a prescription, a treatment, an explanation, and you feel even slightly that things might get better, pay attention to that feeling. It is not separate from your biology. It is your biology. The expectation of healing is not just comfort, it is chemistry. It is your brain preparing your body for recovery, releasing compounds, adjusting systems, responding to a signal that help is on the way. The pill in your hand might contain medicine, or it might not, but the belief that it will help, that something is being done, that you are being cared for, that recovery is possible, that belief is doing something real. Your mind and your body are not two separate systems that occasionally influence each other. They are one system. And the placebo effect is what happens when you remember that.